Now we just got done grouping a set of configuration components into a feature called articles. Fairly clear, as we worked through all of the possible components we could add, which ones were directly related. And sometimes you'll find this is the case, where there's a clear delineation of the edge of a feature, what should belong within a feature and what shouldn't. Other times it's going to be a little bit more ambiguous. So I wanted to talk briefly about some ideas around organizing your features. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this Create Feature tab. Now we're not creating a feature here, we're just exploring the components, and I wanted to point out a couple of things. When we click the drop-down, if we select Content Types here, we'll see that there's only one listed now, Basic Page. That's because the article content type is already part of a feature, and every component can belong to just one feature, otherwise it's considered a conflict. So what this means is that it's very easy to tell what aspects of our site are currently under version control and what isn't, because we can go through this list and just check and see what items are still left to collect into a feature. Now, one idea behind the use of features is that you want to get everything into code that you possibly can. Practically speaking, there may be some components that you don't really care about because you're never going to modify them after their initial installation. But in general, the more components that are in code, the more secure you're going to be and the easier time you're going to have rolling things back if something goes wrong. Now, one implication of putting something in a feature that we haven't really discussed is that when you make modifications to that component later, then it's either going to appear as an override, meaning that there's a change that isn't in version control, or you'll need to re-export it into code, which is kind of a lengthy process if you're doing it manually, but that's a little bit of overhead. Instead of just pointing and clicking and selecting your changes, and maybe duplicating that on a production site for minor changes, you instead should go through the process of re-exporting your module and adding it to code and creating a new revision inside of your version control system. Now, it's understandable if this sounds a bit too much for your personal workflow, but if you really want peace of mind and you want to learn the skills that you'll need in order to work with a team of people, then it's good to understand this approach and how to implement it in a project. So if we were going to try to get everything in code that is currently on our site, what we'd do is go through these different components and we'd try to group them into logical features. So for example, under field here, we have stuff under page. Now this could belong to a pages type feature, if it makes sense to have that as a separate feature, or there's a second type of feature you can create, which is a collection of components that are shared between different features. So for example, if we click on this and we go to text formats, there's a filtered HTML, full HTML, and plain text. Now more than likely, multiple content types are going to use each one of these different types of text formats. So it doesn't make sense necessarily to associate them with just one feature. If we did do that, the positive is that we would get that into code, and that's great. But the negative is that as your site develops, or as you begin sharing features between sites, then you don't want to accidentally turn off certain components simply because you want to disable a feature. If you disable that feature and the associated components, then that means that no other feature can use those components. So in most Drupal distributions that use features, they come with a core style feature, which includes all of these shared components, and it's usually enabled all of the time regardless of the other features that may be enabled or disabled. So going back to fields, and also our page content type, again, we might consider rolling this into a core style feature module instead of a separate pages module.